Treksploration.
Hello and welcome back to Treksploration. I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are talking about the Star Trek Next Generation episode, Season 1, Episode 8, Justice.
Just us.
Us. The one where Wesley almost gets killed by a bunch of naked people.
Yeah, right?
So, I'm sure everyone's been waiting with bated breath along with me. What do you call this episode, Christopher?
I might test the limits of what you edit out, but this will forever to me be the Jogging Boner Planet episode.
Yes, I would say that's accurate. If you said that, I would know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I remember that one, the Jogging Boner Planet. That one, yeah. So I've been waiting to talk about this one. We'll do first impressions and everything, but you can see by my smile, I'm excited.
I enjoy watching this one, so we'll figure out why. Let's see. This one was the original air date was November 9th, 1987. Writer's teleplay was Worley Throne.
Throne, right?
That seems like a made up name. Story by Ralph Wills and Worley Throne. Worley Throne. Probably a nice person.
Game of Worley Thrones.
Exactly. Directed by James L. Conway. Okay. How has your week been, Christopher?
No. You don't get off the hook. How was your birthday? Happy birthday.
Oh, how did you celebrate my birthday? I wanted to ask you.
Your birthday was on a Saturday?
I want to say, yeah.
Yeah, I was out in Schenectady, upstate in New York, and I saw Back to the Future, the musical, for the third time.
Third time. How was it? Was it Traveling Troupe? Traveling Troupe?
I can't tell you. It was the traveling show, yeah.
Yeah? Any different? Like, did the DeLorean fly and stuff?
The DeLorean does fly, but there is an effect at the end of the show on Broadway that they cannot recreate in the traveling show.
That makes sense. I wondered about that.
But honestly, if you had no frame of reference, you wouldn't have missed it. Like it's not like, it was great. I mean, it was almost otherwise exactly the same. I feel like the doc wasn't that great. I've seen 3 Doc Browns now.
Wow.
On Broadway. Yeah. And this one, I think he was trying his best to be incomprehensible, but for all that, it was still pretty good. Guy who played Biff was really good. Yeah, and the George was almost as good as the guy on Broadway.
Really? So, wow. Yeah, the Crispin Glover imitation is important in that role. I think.
Yeah. So you cool. Remember when we first reviewed BTTF the musical, and I said I freaking hated it.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and then I saw it again with you, and I loved it. Now I saw it a third time, and I have the music running through my head because I got no future.
I got no past.
I think I might go to see it a 4th time. Maybe.
Wow. Maybe get the record. Maybe get the LP, the vinyl. You never know. Did you get the shirt? I don't know.
No, I never got the shirt. I just got a pin and a couple of mugs.
Yeah, you didn't need the shirt. You were dressed like Marty McFly that night. Did you dress like Marty McFly in Schenectady?
No, I didn't cosplay. I thought it was going to be like 80, 85 degrees up there. There's no way I was wearing that freaking vest. And then I got up there and it was kind of cool and cloudy. I could have pulled it off easy. But what are you going to do?
So you didn't think you were going to drown? You didn't think you were going to drown?
No. And if I was going to drown, I'd go fishing on the Mohawk River. If I was going to need the vest anywhere, it would be out on the boat fishing.
It would be. What did I do on my birthday? I think, me and Serenity, we decided to watch Enterprise all day since we're going to meet Scott soon again.
Oh, really?
Or see Scott, yeah. So we started our rewatch. So we started with Broken Bow. And we just marathoned it all day. And at the end of the night, because she gave me a present for my birthday, which is awesome. She's awesome. So we had not watched up to 6. And so we finished watching 6 for my birthday. So I was very excited about that. And what confused me most about it was there's a director's cut and the theatrical cut. I had no idea there was a director's cut of Star Trek 6. Did you ever hear about that before?
No, but I don't usually dabble in physical media. As a matter of fact, the only movies I own on DVD are the first 6 Star Trek films. And one called Rare Exports, which was like a Finnish Santa Claus horror movie, which was
I'm
terrific.
intrigued.
Yeah. But I know I got that set because it was the first time I had ever seen the director's cut of TMP available with the remastered effects.
Yeah,
so that's really cool. Yeah.
So they redid it again. For 4K.
Again. Yep.
Yes.
And that's the version that I saw on Paramount Plus had that.
Yeah, I think it's the same, basically the same source. So they just mix one down for streaming and mix one down.
Did they fix McCoy's nose? I
haven't seen it yet. I just watched Star Trek 6 on this. Okay, what am I looking for on that one? On which one? Motion picture? In
the scene, I guess it's kind of like Kirk's quarters, or it's a ready room or something, where it's like Kirk, Spock, and McCoy discussing stuff, arguing, and
Spock wants to shut.
There's this shot of Bones, and he's gesticulating, and he's in profile, and I guess they rematted it because he's against the window. And I think that's where they added like the cell in the back, but it basically cuts his nose off. But this was on the streaming 4K version that was on Paramount Plus.
Okay, I will definitely check it out. That now I'm interested. So I got some homework to do tonight while I'm editing this. But thank you, Serenity, for my birthday gift. You're awesome.
Yeah, really cool.
This is really cool.
Good job, kiddo.
Yeah, she knows what I like. So she was excited to watch Star Trek 6 with me.
Has she ever seen 6 or?
No, that was our first time watching 6 together because we went through the movies together. So,
that's right. You said she discovered the end, so it must have been the first time.
Yeah, it was a mystery for her. So yeah, but she was intrigued. She liked it. She thought Kirk kissing the big gorilla looking thing guy was funny, and him taunting himself and Kirk versus Kirk. So she got way into it. So I enjoyed it. Cool. It was a good time. Yeah, so that was my birthday. That was my birthday.
You were 35, right?
39.
Oh, 39. Okay.
39 in my very extremely late 30s. So I was pretty stoked about that. Oh, and something else weird, or should I save it for later? I got so many Trek and Tells. But besides that, I mean, what did we do after that? Oh, then we went to Miami, right?
I don't know if you went to I thought you went to Disney. Why did I think
we went to Disney for my birthday, but we got back from Disney. Then we had the downtime because I want, my birthday, I just like to not do anything.
Oh, so I see. Okay.
Then we just watched Star Trek all day on the big screen. And then the next day, 2 days from that, we went to Miami. We went to the Miami Zoo. Serenity fed some giraffes. We saw all kinds of cool animals. And then we made it to the South Beach Park Point Pier or something, and we went swimming in South Beach. It was
rolls right off the tongue.
Exactly. $100,000 cars, everybody's got them, that area. So we had our skin suits on, and we went swimming in the ocean and watched the sunset from the ocean. It was gorgeous. So it was a good time. Yeah. And then we made it back. And now she's in Atlantic City.
So, whoa, back up in my neck of the woods, huh?
Yeah, she flew up with her mom for her uncle's wedding. So I'm excited for her for traveling. First time on a plane. So a lot of things happening. So she knows to call you if anything goes south. She knows to call you. Because
I've never been to Atlantic City, but I could probably get there. So
yeah, it's not that far, right?
It's south. It's south.
Tri-state area. So exactly. I got this.
Again, another thing.
I think that's what we're talking about.
That's the Star Trek: The Next Generation logo. It looks like.
Yep.
Justice.
So we're talking about Justice today. That's my VHS copy of it, my collector's edition. I got the Laserdisc behind me, so I'm ready to Justice. Are you ready to Justice?
So much jogging, so many boners in every resolution imaginable.
I never noticed boners. I might have to rewatch. Okay,
everybody's got a mental boner on that planet. So
I remember as a teen having a boner watching this. Because
I can't imagine why.
They're scantily clad and there's tops of legs. One of my favorite things in life is tops of legs. And there's many tops of legs in this episode.
There is no ass, just the fatty part at the top of each leg.
Well, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how I remember it.
This
First
is
impressions
my God.
Justice, Chris.
Yeah, this is a very interesting episode, and I think a real solid episode. And I know that I make fun of it because it's just, on the face of it, it's so ridiculous. But it is almost so quintessentially Star Trek, and not just that, but like classic allegorical Star Trek, that it so much to talk about in this episode. How about you?
Yeah, rewatching it again, like when I think about it, when it's been, months, years since I watched the episode, I always think back to the tops of legs and the scantily clad Eloy people and wondering if the Morlocks are going to show up or not. But when you actually sit and watch it and think about it, it's a very Star Trek-y episode. It's very like, moral message, meaning, brings up a topic, makes you think, and it doesn't necessarily give you the answer, which I love. It makes you think more after it's over. So,
I think that's a little bit debatable, but we will debate it. Yeah.
That's what we're doing here. So I think, watching it critically now, I give it more credit than I ever have just watching it for funsies and for boobsies.
For boobsies, yeah. And for lack of bulgesies. They really went out of their way to have no bulges. The men on that planet have nothing in their pants.
I didn't look at the men's crotches. I don't know why. I was trying to avoid their nipples because their nipples were everywhere. They're like, "Hi, look at our nipples." And I'm like, I don't want those nipples. I want these nipples, even though the nipples are the same thing. It doesn't make sense in my brain.
There's only certain nipples you're allowed to see and other nipples you're not allowed to see. And that standard even goes to Jogging Boner Planet. They still have nipple taboo on Jogging Boner Planet.
It's odd, right? Yeah.
Yes,
I wish it was reversed. Might not have aired, but maybe for home video.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe they'll have the After Dark cut.
Yeah, I'm sure. But you could definitely tell Gene Roddenberry's idea was, can we just get a bunch of almost naked people? Like, okay.
Yeah, that's another thing. Like, is this like a Gene Roddenberry wish fulfillment fantasy episode? I think it might be.
It's gotta be.
Right?
He was a horny man. From all accounts, he was a very horny man, which is perfectly fine. He was sexually liberated, and him and Luoxana had an understanding. So,
yeah.
Number one was okay with it, so I'm okay with it. Chris, can you give us the episode synopsis?
I can, and I will.
Or Justice, or Planet of the Boners? What is it? Boner Planet. Jogging Boner Planet.
JBP. We'll just call it JBP.
Jogging Boner Planet.
Right, JBP.
All right. I was watching Jiggly Boobs. I'm sorry I missed the boners.
So, the Enterprise discovers an unknown M-class world, and faster than you can say duck blind, they initiate first contact. They find an idyllic society of hotties primarily interested in jogging and healthy sensuality. But while assessing the planet for shore leave suitability, Wesley commits a minor legal infraction and is sentenced to death. Now Picard must weigh Starfleet's General Order 1 of non-interference against the life of an innocent crew member, a choice not made easier by a mysteriously powerful and potentially deadly alien entity orbiting the planet that is jealously guarding its inhabitants. This time on Star Trek The Next Generation, Justice.
Dun, dun, dun. That was a good one. Do we want to talk about it, or do we have any feedback?
Well, we have a bunch of feedback, and I think we kind of reversed first impressions with the synopsis. We should have went to first impression. We'll get it someday.
I do that. I get excited to talk about boners and boobs and nipples.
How many times
this is going to be?
We need to have like a little stopwatch in the corner. It's almost like when they were saying shit the first time you could say shit on TV. South Park. We need to.
Is it for boners or for nipples or?
We have to anything? We have to do the boner counter. Boner counter.
Sure.
Boner counter. Well, before we start counting boners, we want everybody to reach out to us. Subscribe, like, share. Our main place to do that is our Patreon site. That is patreon.com/Treksploration. There you can join our crew of Treksplorers and tell us what you think about Jogging Boner Planet and all the other Star Trek episodes that we talk about. You can find us on Instagram at Treksploration Pod. You can access at Treksploration. You can email us at treksplorationpod@gmail.com. You can get us on the phone at 707-847-6682. You can drop us a line at P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York 11705. And you can find us right here on our YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/@Treksplloration, and you'll find the comment section below. Way down there, just click on make a comment, and while you're doing it, follow us on this channel. We need more subscribers. We have to monetize this thing so that we can retire. We can retire and talk about Star Trek every day of the week instead of just once a week.
We need at least 1,000 subscribers to monetize, and we're almost there. We just need a few more, so maybe you can put us over the top.
Please put us over the top. And maybe just tell your friend and ask them to tell a couple hundred of their friends, and we'll be right there. We'll be right there.
They'll tell two friends, and they'll tell two friends. And
if not you, who? If not during Jogger Boner Planet, when? That's what I have to say, right?
Wait till you see this thumbnail. It's going to be nipples and boners and tops of legs. Hopefully that gets clicked on.
So, and while we're at it, we did mention the Patreon site, and we'd like to thank our crew of intrepid Treksplorers over there who are supporting us. We have our Lieutenant Commanders, Scott Seligman, Cosplay Dad, One of All, Fantasy Fan, and our Captain on the Bridge, Charles from Texas. Hello, Charles from Texas. Now,
Captain,
if you have not seen our special with our Captain's Roundtable, where we talked to Charles from Texas for the first time, really. It was such a great show. Is that one behind the paywall? Is that one?
No, it's up and out. I want everybody to know Captain Charles. Yeah. I was kind of worried because, you invite somebody on the podcast. It's not like a podcaster that hasn't done it for a while. You worry if they're going to be okay. He was a natural. He was just so fun and interesting to talk to. Loved Captain Charles.
He ain't a captain for nothing. So thank you, Charles, for chatting with us. We talked all about his Trek fandom, and that was specifically, we were doing the wrap up of not only the season, but the series of Disco. So good stuff.
Yeah, we'll probably have another Captain's Roundtable coming up at the end of probably season 1 of Next Gen. So make sure to, if you're interested in being a captain, apply.
Yeah, go. That's patreon.com/Treksplloration. While at patreon.com/Treksplloration, you can also leave some feedback, and we got a bunch of feedback. I haven't been able to use a lot of this because we've been talking about disco. We haven't really done it next year. We've been in disco hell. But this one actually wasn't from the Patreon site. This was an email that we got. It's kind of long, but I think it's very interesting. Would you like me to read it, Albie?
Yes, I would love it. You're very good at that.
This is feedback from, I guess, a viewer or a listener. His name is Willard, and Willard sent us an email in which he writes, I am listening to the podcast on Whistlespeak, and you're currently talking about Star Trek II. It did indeed come out in 1982, which would have made me 11. I did have an emotional response to the end from the emotional bond portrayed between Kirk and Spock. Prior knowledge of Star Trek is not needed. So I think that Willard is another one that maybe was introduced to Star Trek through the movies, just like Charles from Texas. And I guess he got the emotional bond. He didn't know who Kirk and Spock were, but at the end, he was blown away by it. So
it's a testimony to the art that they made in that film, because I cried like a baby because it was Spock, and I love Spock, and I didn't want to lose Spock, and just that emotion was everything. And it's nice to hear that it affected brand new viewers as well.
Yeah, and there you go. You never know what is a jumping off point for somebody or a jumping on point for somebody, right?
Cat's paw.
Cat's paw. Yeah.
What was yours again? I forget.
I think it was Bread and Circuses.
Okay, that's right. Is that the one with the baked potatoes?
That's the one with the Nazis.
Oh, okay.
And the sun.
I gotcha. Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And you kept
continues. Going. I kept going. Yeah. I mean, they had that hot blonde woman. She was pointing a
hot.
gun in the cave. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Willard continues, when you covered Where No One Has Gone Before, you expressed confusion over Picard's mother being old when she had died when he was younger. This brief glimpse shows her as an older woman offering him tea, suggesting a warm and loving relationship. Picard himself later reflects on this comforting vision, imagining his mother in a nurturing role. However, Season 2 of Star Trek Picard reveals a much darker and complex backstory, uncovering the truth about his mother's severe mental illness and her tragic death. This new perspective sheds light on the deeper layers of Picard's character, explaining his emotional guardedness and need for control. By juxtaposing these revelations with his earlier memories, Star Trek Picard provides a richer understanding of the experiences that shaped one of Starfleet's most iconic captains. With Beverly, there was always a sense of distance and formality, despite their deep mutual respect and underlying affection. This cautious approach can be attributed to his fear of becoming emotionally vulnerable. Similarly, I hate that word, his relationship with Vosh was marked by a guarded demeanor, reflecting his struggle to fully open up and trust others intimately. By season 3 of Picard, we witness a more emotionally open Jean-Luc. His bonding moments with his son Jack Crusher and his reconnections with old friends highlight a Picard who is ready to embrace relationships more fully. He begins to confront and heal from his past. I would also like to briefly touch on your discussion on religion and spirituality. I guess we talk about that sometimes, right?
Sometimes.
In Star Trek? Who would have thought?
Yeah.
You both use the two terms interchangeably, and I've never considered them to be. I'm not religious, but I do consider myself spiritual, grounded in a sense of personal peace and purpose. It also relates to the process of developing beliefs around the meaning of life and connections with others. Spirituality is growing as a human, bettering myself, developing a set of values that defines how I see and treat the world around me. It has nothing to do with a higher power. We all make mistakes. Owning up to them, learning from them, and becoming better because of them is also part of my definition of spirituality. Willard. Oh, wow, Willard. That is some treatise we have there. A lot of deep things in there. And just, he gave us a coda. P.S. Saw your interview with Brian Winbrandt on the Quantum Leap podcast. What a great interview. Thanks for the great work. And for Chris, here's a picture of one of my 3 dogs, Goober. I'll share more pics of the other dogs with future emails. So Willard, I look forward to seeing Goober placed up on the screen here. And I would love to meet all of your other dogs, dog people, dog nation. That's what I say.
Yes. So. We figured out our ship is named the USS Porthos, correct?
I guess. Sure. Why not?
I like it. You made that up. You made it up. Okay. That's why you like it. That's why you like it.
It's been a long time since we recorded. Okay, I say a lot of things.
It's true. We both had some mini vacations and stuff.
You know it. So, you know it.
Yeah, so. I spirituality. I like that. Nothing to do with a higher power. Yeah, I like spirituality more than religion, I would say, because religion is a strict set of rules and people have everything figured out and they know for a fact how everything works. But where spirituality is more like, kind of like the, is this all that I am? Is there anything more? Like, I don't know what's beyond the Great Barrier. Who knows? I like his take on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's cool too. I mean, no matter what you label it, saying that your basic goal is to better yourself and develop a set of values that defines how you see the world around you. I mean, isn't that the whole Star Trek spiel?
Yeah, that's
we
the goal,
now better
right?
ourselves. And I can just hear Nog saying, yeah, what does that mean? We got some other feedback from Fantasy Fan, and you're not gonna believe this. I was talking
Commander
Fantasy Fan. Yes. He sent this to us on the Patreon, and it never occurred to me that Fantasy Fan, like fantasy novels, because I was talking about the snakes and the foxes in the Robert Jordan books, Wheel of Time books. And Fantasy Fan had the same thing. This was from Lonely Among Us with the delegates that were on the ship. Fantasy Fan writes, this episode was all right. Definitely not one of my favorites, but I sure enjoyed the Sherlock Holmes stuff with Data and Picard telling Data to lose the pipe. Great stuff. Anyhow, did a writer from Star Trek The Next Generation read Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time books back in the 80s? Because it's so similar to the snakes and foxes in the Shadow Rising book. They called them the Ilfin and the Elfin. Wheel of Times is also another one of my top favorite shows. Really love the characters on there because I read all the books. And Fantasy Fan also sent a coda because he realized, LOL, wait, correction. The Shadow Rising was published in 1992. So I wonder if Robert Jordan was watching TNG. So similar. Maybe.
Wouldn't that be crazy if like one-off episode of Next Gen inspired him? You never know where inspiration comes from.
Yeah, yeah. And Wheel of Times, they're so dense and they're so fat. And by the end, they were just so freaking long. Again, I'm not going to get into it. Anyway, thanks, Fantasy Fan. I'm glad that somebody else noticed that besides me. And now, you know, when I talk about fantasy, I know that you specifically will have a frame of reference, most likely.
Yes.
Most likely.
I think you found your people, Chris.
I found, yeah, finally, after all this time, talking about Quantum Leap, talking about Star Trek, I finally found someone who understands me. Anyway. We have one last letter from Captain Charles. Charles from Texas, just catching up with us. And I guess he went to a con by where he lives because he writes, I had an absolute blast at Dallas Fan Expo. Jonathan Frakes was there and he was awesome. He spent some time talking about the AR wall and what it's like to film using it. I also attended the Frakes Q&A. No epic secrets spilled, nothing spoiled, but he did convey that he got in trouble once for spilling something. Before Disco's Mirror Universe episodes aired, he was doing an interview and was asked why Next Gen never did a Mirror episode. He said he didn't really know. And then he said, but I just directed one in the Mirror Universe. Within an hour, some bigwig at CBS called him and yelled at him for, quote, ruining everything and all they had built, LOL. So I guess Frakes, yeah, I guess he walked it off. I mean.
Yeah, I do remember that happening. So.
I don't recall that, but it sounds like an innocent mistake.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of good advertising because it creates buzz. You know, no such thing as bad publicity, and people got excited for it. So that might have helped. Yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, Frakes is awesome. Met him a few times, and he's always on at conventions, and he's friendly to everybody and high energy. I don't know how he does it. Probably lots of money.
Yeah. You know, money is the cure all. It's the solve. It's the bomb.
He's a good director. Still a good actor. Picard season 3. Loved his performance.
Yeah, it's funny when I was reading about him reprising his role as Riker, he said he was nervous to act again because he hasn't acted in so long. And I always think when you're an actor, like, can you get rusty? Especially a character he played for, you know, what, a dozen years? Like, you think that getting into Riker is like slipping on an old coat or something like that, but maybe not. Who knows?
Well, it probably helps that like Riker went from Commander William Riker to basically Jonathan Frakes dressed in Starfleet uniform. So I'm sure that helps.
Well, I mean, Will did the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, he called himself Wesley, but he was Will.
Speaking of Wesley and Justice, guess what I just got for me for my birthday?
Oh, the officially unofficial Wesley Crusher fan club. This is a t-shirt. I'd read that for the benefit of everybody listening on the podcast feed. And it's a picture of Wesley. It's like a silhouette, I guess, so they don't have to pay Wil Wheaton for a likeness.
Well, Wil Wheaton designed this. Wil Wheaton designed this.
Oh,
Wil Wheaton designed this. Yeah, and it's benefiting a charity. So I picked it up right away. I think it's for kids, LGBTQIA kids.
Awesome. Is that his tricolored onesie thing from before he became an acting ensign, or is that
so.
Or that was his first
sweater.
acting ensign? It wasn't. No, it's not one of the ugly sweaters.
No, I don't know.
He finally does get like an outfit.
I think it's the stripes on the gray sweater. I really do.
All right, if you say so.
But I'm not in the official fan club. I'm in the officially unofficial fan club.
There you go. Very nice. So, very nice. Yeah. Good for you for treating yourself.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think we could do a whole podcast, not just on Next Gen, but on Wesley sweaters. Like, I feel like that's a whole podcast in and of itself. You never leave season 1. You just you chart the progression of ugly fucking sweaters that kid has been forced to wear throughout the entire season. I mean, they had no idea how to costume him.
This one wasn't so bad. It was brown.
Yeah,
it was plain brown.
But and they had those some weird slacks.
Yeah, the pants that were, I think it's called color blocking, where you take a normal pattern and you cut like one of the pattern pieces in half or something to make it multicolored. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Well, he was a little overdressed for Boner Planet, but
he was. I think why they do that is he looked like he was like a skinny kid. So like if you put him in something form-fitting like the adults were wearing, he'd almost look gawky. probably. So they gave him a bulky sweater to kind of make him bulk up a little bit.
Like give him a little bit of screen presence, you think?
Yeah, I think so,
Oh,
compared
okay.
to the other ones. That's my thought.
Okay. All right. I never really considered it. I just thought that they don't know what future fashion is supposed to look like. These costumes look like they got Bill Thies back. I mean, these were straight out of TOS, these costumes, but they still don't know how to costume Wesley, in my opinion. So, I mean, what does casual wear look like in the 24th century, and how do we differentiate it from bad 80s clothes? Oh, let's put a stripe down the pants.
They're trying.
Otherwise,
they're trying.
I don't know. I mean, you're the seamstress in.
I dabble. I like the pants. I thought maybe if I'd cosplay Wesley, I'd might maybe do that one, because not too long from now, I think he gets the acting ensign, like gray on gray uniform, doesn't he?
Yeah, but isn't there a rainbow one between that where he's got like the three colors up along the top?
Like when the bow breaks, I think he wears that one.
Yeah. That's
a few
what
other
I'm thinking
ones.
of.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that's the famous one. Like they sell those. They actually have licensed ones you can buy, and then there's like I've seen so many different things, like pillows, sheets, towels, Christmas stockings, all kinds of stuff with the Wesley stripes on them. So.
It's funny you say that. Now when you said sheets and pillows, with those bold primary colors across the thing, it looks like a toddler's onesie, and it's just amazing to me how they infantilize this kid who's supposed to be such a super genius. And naked now, he's getting drunk, and instead of looking for girls, he's asking for double ice cream rations. in this one, by all accounts, he should have like the biggest adolescent boner of all time, because he's surrounded by half naked people that just come up and hug him. I mean, it's just like, but again, they put him in these clothes that just scream child, and not even child, like toddler. It's so weird.
I wonder if that's like on purpose, or they're just, the people writing for him are too old and see him as so young, or is it more of a reflection on how maybe infantile the human race has become? And like they don't have the same vices that we had growing up. They weren't out, smoking cigars, riding bicycles, killing monsters when they were like 7. Looking for Playboys in the dumpster. They weren't doing that. He's a homeschool kid that basically has been on a starship or a space station his whole life, right?
So, I guess. Wow, that is a deep dive. That's a deep reading of just an ugly sweater. I like it.
Well, he fits in with the rest of them, which are, in line, following the rules, and, doing what's expected of them. And, I guess, I don't know. I mean, the most scandalous thing we've seen is Riker watching 2 women play the harp, I think, Have we gotten there yet? I don't think we've not really, but it's close. It's coming,
up, right? It's coming.
But that's the atmosphere. It's not Quark's bar. There's no hollow suites in this section of Starfleet yet.
Well, there's holodecks.
Yes.
So that's
And man, he would have had to hack him. I would have hacked him. I mean, I watched the blurry cable when I was his age.
Yeah, I mean, but I got to think. Okay, so are there like age restrictions on the holodeck? Like if we're sort of quote enlightened and there's a healthy sensuality. I mean, part of the message of this episode is that sex is not a taboo thing; it's a natural part of existence. So why not have a culture that embraces it as one of the central tenets of their society? Which is great. Healthy sensuality. Would a holodeck have an age restriction kind of thing? Or is it just sex?
I would say yes, just because you can only handle certain things at certain ages, I think.
But riddle me this.
Okay.
What if Troy and Riker decided to get married on Beta Z? Wesley would naturally be invited. And anybody in the wedding party, including maybe his mom, or maybe his space dad, would have to be naked as well.
I think they would be enlightened about that, and they would be naked, and it wouldn't be a big deal, because nudity and sex are 2 different things, even though we associate them together. At least I do most of the time. But I think in their enlightened future, they wouldn't think anything of it.
So do you think that we don't see it because of the square TV sensors, but do you think there could just be casual nudity on a starship?
Ooh, I would hope so. I know Troy wears some really revealing nighties and nightgowns and stuff. And I don't know. But everybody seemed to be very giddy about what the people on the planet were wearing. What was this planet called? I don't even know.
It was called, they were called the Edo, and the planet is Rubicon 3.
So the Edo, that's really close to the Eloi.
Yeah, and I think that's, you think that was a coincidence? So, I mean, does that make us the Morlocks? That's what I'm thinking. So. We came down and we, another stake for the Garden of Eden.
I watching this the third time in the last week or so, I made a connection that I hadn't before, because I was skipping around like I always do. Beverly's very upset about the possibility of something bad happening to Wesley, and she wants her child back, and the what is that, the probe that's taking care of the
God thing. The God thing is what they called it. Yeah,
is like, give my let my children go, give her back to me or something. Was there a parallel there that's going on that I'm like I didn't connect? Because both of them one sees the race as their children, and the other one it is Beverly's child. So like they're both wanting their children back.
I had not made that connection, and I think the reason why I haven't and you did is because I don't have a child. So to me, those were just two separate story beats. I never really connected them, but I think you watch things with a different sensibility than I do because of the fact that you're so focused on being a great dad.
I probably do when they, again, skipping around, but when they finally reunite Beverly and Wesley and share that moment, I got emotional, which surprised me because, as a kid, I never even noticed. I didn't care. It's like, yeah, Wesley's fine. Yeah. But now I was like, he's safe.
Yeah.
Even though I know he's safe, he's the traveler again. So, but yeah, I think Gates did so well as a parent, worried for their kid in this episode.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to have a show where ostensibly you want to highlight Wil Wheaton, because at the time that this was on, maybe him and LeVar Burton were probably the two biggest stars, or at least most recognizable stars attached. Mm-hmm. So I think that's why we got so much of Wes in the first season, was because Stand By Me, and, he was one of the biggest actors in the world at that point, which is so mind-blowing. Can you imagine that, being the age he was and having basically this entire franchise renewal partially resting on a character that they made specifically for you, and that is getting a lot of heavy story beats and a lot of negative fan reaction? It's got to be like the most weird place to be in as a young man, and he's probably just on set saying, okay, Brenda Bakke is hugging me. Okay, just think of baseball. Just think of ice cream. Think of double portions of ice cream.
Double portions of ice cream. I loved how they handled it. Wesley handled it. I guess whatever you normally do. I guess he was.
Yeah, I know that was so sly. I mean, there was a lot of that's like some of this is like, even though they're portraying sex is not a big deal on this planet, there were so many like tee hee hee moments in this. I mean, and what Wesley said, that's exactly what I would have said. So whatever. I'm on the no personal space at all planet. So yeah, okay. I guess when in Rome, and even Riker says that when they're jogging. So
when in where, sir?
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense. I think at this point maybe they didn't establish Worf grew up on Earth. That had to be
No, that had to be it. Yeah, because Worf has no idea that there's a city called Rome. So
unless
the Rogenkos were, they didn't have a TV.
That's possible, right? They grew up in Russia, but when in Rome, well, they had a heavy accent and they were very regional. I don't know, but you would think he would have heard that somewhere along the lines, living with humans most of his life.
Yeah, and it's just a way to highlight his alienness, and it was a fun line. Not knowing
It
anything
was.
about Worf and trying not to retcon everything you know about him into these first few episodes helps.
What was his for real funny line? Oh, nice planet.
Yeah.
Nice planet.
Worf's too violent a lover though, so unfortunately, yeah. Apparently he'd tear these men and women in half. So
was this episode racist because everyone was white and blonde haired?
Well, I took that out of my synopsis because I just said they found a race of hotties. I originally wrote a race of Aryan hotties. But all of Star Trek is a monoculture when you go to any of these planets. So maybe they were seated there by this god thing. Maybe this god thing made them in this god thing's racist image. Who knows? Or maybe the god thing had never seen pigment before. I don't know.
Or just picked up the seeds from a planet that was winter, just like with snow and everything. This gave me like Caretaker vibes a little bit.
That's the Voyager premiere, correct?
Yeah, the probe that was taking care of the Ocampan.
Gotcha. I don't have much memory of that. I think
Corn on the Cob.
Revealed to you. Corn on the Cob, I remember. And I remember right around then is every time I watch it, that's right around when I fall asleep. So,
but it seems like that's the thing they go to. And it also, now that we experience the end of Discovery with the progenitors, it's giving me a little bit of progenitor vibe. So who knows? It's all in that same genre.
Well, we've been talking about this since we started talking about Next Gen, yet another godlike alien entity, whether it be through technology or whatever, or just, indistinguishable from magic. I think that this is once again going back to a tried and true Star Trek well. And this one really could have been straight out of TOS had they had the ability to do a story that is just so blatantly sexual in the 60s. Surprised they got away. Do you think it's because they were in first run syndication that they were able to do stories like this that they might not have been able to do otherwise?
I absolutely do, because they weren't taking network notes. They were syndicated, and the stations had the choice to run them or not, and some didn't run some episodes. So, I think they had a shorter leash, longer leash, no leash.
No leash. More leeway. We'll say more leeway.
More leeway. Yeah, I think they had more leeway to make what they wanted to make, and if they wanted to air it, change it, they did. But again, it was like a standard definition television back then, and I think if you were doing well, you had a 27-inch, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm bigger than today's phones, but the clarity wasn't there. So I mean, they could have been wearing bodysuits under those, and you wouldn't know. Because I didn't notice until the Blu-rays that the older, not Eloy, what are they?
Edo. EDO.
The older Edo females have like a flesh tone bra underneath their thing, and I never noticed that originally.
Oh, I hadn't really paused to watch that.
Maybe I'm revealing too much about myself.
I was good, but here's the thing: you've seen this far more times than I have, and it does hold a special place in your heart for So I bet this is one you were waiting for the ultra high def 4K version to see what might be revealed here.
I might have popped this one on, when I've got the Blu-ray set. Same with Deanna Troi and her, when she's wearing that peach number.
Yes. We all know which one we're talking about.
Yeah. I found it interesting that the adult, they definitely had a line with the sexuality, that like the younger ones, no sexuality, of course. And the older ones did. So that's why I found it interesting, the way that the older, I forget the name again.
Edo, like Odo with an E.
Edo, like Odo with an E. Thank you. The older Edo treating Wesley because he was younger. So maybe they just have this feeling of when, or like there's a certain age, like 18. I know the woman that played the younger woman in this episode was 18 at the time, and she was supposed to be a kid but they put her in like almost a more scantily clad outfit than the adults by not having her wear a bra. And I was like, that's kind of weird and awkward.
It was weird and awkward, and that's where it became somewhat viscerally uncomfortable for me, because again, they infantilize Wesley so much in this that he's confronted with all of this just blatant raw sexuality, and it's such an odd juxtaposition. You're just like, what? Why do I feel really, really can it cringe? Can this scene be over, please? You know?
There's a lot of cringe.
And
like,
the two guys were wearing less than anybody. I feel like they were just like in loincloths.
Yeah, and there's a definite V on the shorts, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, obviously they're all adults, but they're young adults playing kids, but still it's cringy and awkward. So I found that odd. So I tended to not look that way, and I looked at the adult women running around.
No, for sure. I mean, I was very happy when those scenes were over, because it's just so weird when you're talking about, like, I think that they put that in specifically to maybe address what is the age of consent. Is there an idea of consent on a planet where this is such a natural part of the society? I mean, they went to that council chamber. What do they do in that council chamber besides, slow waltzes and massages? It's like that's the governing center. That's how you get legislation passed. I mean, I'm confused.
It's so that's an interesting aspect of the episode. So I think they had different ideas, and they kind of combined them, because they combined them with the death penalty for any infringement of a fraction of a law, which is weird. What do you think about that whole thing? What are they trying to teach us there?
Oh, to me, that's where this episode gets to be a real allegory, in the sense that you have a big idea that you want to dramatize, and so you make like the most minor infraction so that you can talk about this stuff, right? So it's kind of, on the face of it, to me, dumb, but the discussion that it sparks is so meaty, and you go into such quintessential Star Trek themes because of it. You can forgive this convoluted idea that any infraction is a death penalty, and that's what keeps everybody in line, is this fear. And it's a centuries old practice, and everybody reveres it. So who are you to say that we're wrong? So it just seems silly that they would murder their own people for like stepping on the grass or for falling into flowers, especially if it's an accident. What if you just tripped? You would just have to die. I mean, there's no such thing as an accident on this planet, or there's no excuse. There's no quarter. I find that bit of it to be unbelievable in any kind of evolved society, but they also made the Edo childlike as well. So maybe they're just doing what they're told. And it's almost like the apple, which is one of my favorite ones to bash on in TOS. I don't like the apple with the feeders of Val and all that stuff, but I can't help but notice the similarities between the two societies in this, which is why I got another TOS vibe. What about you? Did you find the conceit that the episode hinged on to be believable? Did it take you out of it at all?
So I almost saw it as a religious indoctrination of the whole society, and that's why they were following the laws, because those were the laws of God, possibly. So maybe it was more, besides talking about capital punishment and just laws and stuff, it might have been more of like talking about religion and cults. Okay, I got that kind of vibe with this,
like a blind allegiance thing.
Yes, so that's why there was nobody really breaking the law, because they were all indoctrinated from a young age to believe this is what we do and this is what we don't do, and if you don't do this, you'll be killed. Which a lot of religions have that, in the world still today. So I saw that in some of this, which I never saw before watching it recently.
See, now that's funny to me, because I guess that was an aspect of it, but didn't really jump out at me, even though they said God is in the sky. But it wasn't like God tells us to do this, therefore we have to. It was like our ancestors learned centuries ago that this was the way to establish the society, and we have lived by it ever since. And we just believe in healthy sensuality and healthy lifestyle, and nobody's going to fuck that up for us. And if anything bad happens, they said we were a mess until this absolute rule came along, and now look at the paradise we're in. So what does that say? Because by all, and by every sense, every measure that you can have for this planet, they seem to be otherwise a genuine Eden.
So it's weird for me because at the same time, they seem like they're very highly evolved and yet very childlike in their understanding of everything else, because they've evolved past the need to understand. So it's almost like a different version or a sequel to Idiocracy, where instead of going just completely dumb, they went very enlightened and yet childlike at the same time.
Yeah, it's very much like the Time Machine. It really is. And I'm sure that was a deliberate nod, because what you can't help but think of it if you're versed in science fiction. And I've never seen Idiocracy. I've heard nothing but good things about it. Maybe we should do a bonus episode about Idiocracy. Sure. Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool, right? But yeah, I mean, again, do I find that especially believable? Well, I mean, who's toiling the fields? Who's farming? Who's taking out the trash? Where is the sanitation district? Who's purifying the water? Where is all? Who built that fantastic complex, that mid-century modern complex that they shot this at? I'm sure every other podcast in the world has defined what area that shooting location was. All I know is it was pretty cool.
Ironically, it was a water reclamation plant.
Oh, well, there you go. Yeah.
So I think it's in North LA, and that's where they reclaim the water. So there's the whole time they're running around half naked, everything smells like sewage. It's crazy.
I bet. Well, I mean, so who builds that? Where are the engineers? Where are the scientists? Where are the doctors? Nobody gets sick. It's all just childlike play.
So yeah, and things would fall apart eventually if there's nobody there to fix things. I mean, we have the 2 police, and there's very few of them. So some people do have jobs, I guess, right?
Yeah, or duties, like tasks to perform within the society, since they see it as such a sacred duty to kill anybody who steps out of line. I thought it was neat, though, that it was a little convoluted, but when you follow it, it's just like, okay, not every infraction will always be followed by death. It's only if that zone is being patrolled at that moment. So maybe you could have an accident. Maybe you could slip. You won't necessarily die, but you always could. So, that maybe that's how they keep from just having mass graves on this freaking planet.
Well, I like that too, because it if they did have that everywhere, then it would be more of like a Big Brother episode. Yeah. And instead this was, random chance and nobody risks it. So I did like that, but there was a lot of because show to get to Wesley being wanted to be put to death. So because it had to be in a certain zone, and he had to be caught, and he had to break the rules, and he had to jump into a flower bed just to catch a ball.
But think about it. That's almost brilliant, because you're right. I didn't even consider this, but what you just said, that, I mean, you could be living in an authoritarian dystopian hell on this planet. So how do you make it so that you keep that light, sexy vibe? And the childlike thing about it, you don't have it all the time. You make it a really big threat, but it's not always enforced. It's just more of an idea than a constant state of paranoia and police state.
Yeah. So that would have been a completely different entity. So,
but I never considered them walking that line. So that's really cool observation. Something's venting behind you.
Oh yeah. It's the primary exhaust port. It's it's like backed up. So the station's being weird lately.
Is the God thing going to come and take care of that for you?
It might. Now, what was her name? The one that went up on the ship with Picard?
Oh, I don't know. That's Brenda Baki, I think, is her real
Yes.
name. And I don't know. Let me see if I wrote it down, but I don't think I wrote
Okay.
down any of the characters' names. I was just, too focused on the costumes.
The boners.
Yeah. All the boners.
Immediately she like bows down and starts shaking, and she's like, well, it's God, obviously, but why wasn't she like, why is God a satellite? Why is it a robot in space? I don't know.
That was the other thing that confused me about this, because they're so childlike, yet they have absolutely no awe of somebody beaming down. They have no problem with the idea of there being a galaxy class starship that is completely alien to their society, yet there it jives with their worldview just fine. Like, the Federation had never, according to Picard's log, they just dropped off some colonists on another planet in the next system over, and they just stumbled upon this world and just decided to send a liaison team down. So if the Federation has never contacted this world, how are they so at ease with everything the Federation brings with it, especially if they're in such an idyllic society that is coddled and basically cordoned off by this God thing? I mean, obviously the God thing will brook no threat to its children. So
is the God thing the one taking care of them with the buildings and the trash removal?
Yes. Comments below. I mean, yeah, I don't. What the God thing just send? Is it like the Shirley planet where they just have like underground facilities that? But then we have then where are the Morlocks and where's the class struggle and where's all that? Well, that's why you can't look too. This is why it's allegory, right? You can't look too closely at it. So
that's true, and we're talking about a TV show and trying to understand it as if it was 100% real. But I just thought, so maybe they're an advanced society because they went through that time where they didn't have as strict laws and the society was falling apart. But with their advancements, maybe they made technology that cleans up after them, that brings their food for them, that takes their waste away. Maybe that's just a part of their society we're not seeing because it's so good at just being unnoticed.
I get, yeah. I mean, so maybe that's their technology for us that's indistinguishable from magic, right?
Yeah, could be.
But then we have a little bit of a pickle with that too, because once Wesley is, put him to death. Once he gets condemned to death, they start arguing the Prime Directive. They start arguing, this is our society and this is your society. Who are you to come in and say that our rules are any worse? And the male dude, Chief
Nipple
Boner
guy.
Man. Yeah, Chief Boner Man. He's just like, oh, so you're just going to come here and, mock our backwards thoughts with your superior technology. Once again, it's like they see themselves as more primitive. Yet they're trying to take a moral high ground to say, just because we don't have what you have or your technology doesn't mean that you're right. It doesn't mean that we're wrong. And for them to see themselves like that, again, they would have had, I think, to have had some experience with more advanced races or more advanced cultures in the past. I can't wrap my head around what their status is vis-a-vis off-worlders.
Yeah, they weren't shocked at all. Like, Worf's just hanging out with them and they're cool. They're not even looking at Worf. Right?
Yeah, it's nothing. They want to bone Worf as much as they want to bone everybody else.
Yeah.
It's not a shock, So
it is puzzling. It's perplexing. So they must have off-world visitors often
enough.
Often or maybe enough records,
maybe records of it. Maybe the God thing sends dreams down to them,
or they're just so dumb that they don't care about things. They don't seem to question anything. It's just that's the way it is, and that might be more of like almost like the Eloi, like they're being bred for food or something, or at least bred to be who they are by the God-like thing, and And if they don't have to worry, do they ever have to grow up, or do they ever have to think critically? I know they don't question anything. It's like, well, you committed the crime, so we're going to kill you.
Mhm.
All of the Edo seem to not care about anything or question anything. The only one that really has any like human-like emotions or thought is the younger woman, the child, the female child. When they're about to kill Wesley, she's the only one that goes, "Oh no," and she starts to get upset. Other than her, I see no emotion or any care about anything.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I guess that they really do. I think they even say it in the course of the dialogue that this is a childlike race. So they just do what they're told, but there doesn't seem to be any kind of resentment towards that. It's almost like,
like it was bred out of them almost.
Yeah.
That's how I was taking it.
Maybe they're like Kelpians. And I think, honestly, I think the God thing just likes to watch people have sex. So he just made himself a giant porn planet.
Maybe that's what it is.
And he's just like, hey, stay away. This is my porn stash. Go find your other, your own. Go find your own. Yeah.
You figured it out. They bred porn. This probe, this God thing is just watching people play at love.
There you go. Wow. And the God thing has a certain type, which is why they're all, like
blonde,
so blonde, almost white hair, and so trim, tan, and tone. The God thing is that's what he's into.
I have such a different understanding about this now.
So I mean,
he instead of like return my child, he's like, that's my porn tape. Right, that's mine. Exactly. You put it back in my library.
Right. We're going to call this Planet Porn Stash.
Planet Porn Stash.
Yeah. Planet Porn Hoard.
Yeah. If Picard figured that out, he could have, did something different. Like, don't make me tell your wife orbiting that other planet that you're watching these people.
Right. Over in that, maybe that's why he's phasing in out of reality, right? He's got to sneak away from his wife on the other plane, or his partner or whatever.
They can be in many places at once. He's multitasking. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
And one of the windows is Porn Planet.
Right. So actually, like, our universe is just his porn closet. It's where he hides the porn.
Yes.
Right. So, all right. I like it.
Wow.
I like it.
I did not realize that, but it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. What else happened in this? What? So this brings up the whole death penalty thing.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that at all? I don't know.
I love that part of the episode.
Yeah.
Well, tell me what's confusing. Why is it confusing? You always play dumb. Stop playing dumb. I know you have opinions.
Obviously, it doesn't make sense in any society that kid falls on a plant and he's going to get killed. So they're taking it to an absurd level. I don't agree with that, right? And I don't agree with killing. They should have different laws, not just the one law. He's a kid. So you don't go around killing kids because they're learning. That's the whole point of them being, is to learn how to be a grown up. So they shouldn't be killing him because he's a kid. And the death penalty for everything is wrong, and it makes me question, because I've gone back and forth here and there on the death penalty. For the most part, I'm opposed to it. I don't think any state or government should have the right to kill any person. I don't think anybody should kill anybody. But then you have so many heinous people that do such horrible things. It makes you wonder sometimes,
Yeah, but I mean, I think they took a clear stand on this. Obviously, in the idyllic future of the Federation, there is no death penalty, and they make their case for the debate as it rages on in this country and our modern society, which again, that's science fiction does. And Picard said, we just have found that the death penalty is not any kind of real deterrent. When it comes to crimes like this, we had to address the issues that were at the heart of it, not just the punishment aspect of it. And that, is a wonderful stand to take. And it's almost like this episode was crafted so that they could showcase these ideas. I mean, quite obviously, yeah. But to me, that's like the meat of why the people who wrote this episode wrote this episode. Like, they wanted to have a debate about the death penalty and show the absurdity of it. That's why Wes is going to die for stepping on flowers, because who's to say? What's the line, you know? And they kind of do this. Actually, I think it's Wes's last episode before he becomes the Traveler. You know, how many people need to be moved? Or I could be thinking of Insurrection too, right? How many people is too little? How many people are enough? You know, whatever. It's like, if you're going to have an arbitrary line, where does it get drawn? So why not make it as ridiculous as possible? Death for everything, because why not? I mean, it's just, if we accept it in one case, why not accept it in all cases?
Right.
So,
It is doing that. It's the whole like black on one side, white on the other side kind of thing, where they take it to an absurd level to make you think about it. And like as an idea, I don't think death penalty should exist, because I think punishment is just revenge. But you know, in the abstract, it's easy to say. But what if it was your member of your family that got murdered or killed or whatever? You know? It makes your need for revenge that much stronger. But then that's what the government's for, to step in and not have revenge. But that's basically what punishment is a revenge. And that part of it always bothered me. I don't know.
Well, because I feel like what they do is, by taking it to such an absurd extreme, you take any kind of basis for argument away. So it is a very much like a one track, not a debate, but I'm expressing this idea, which I believe to be true, and I'm going to make sure that in this instance, there's no arguing it. Whereas you and I are talking about it, and it's just like, well, I don't support the death penalty in theory, but there are heinous people who maybe deserve to die. I don't know. If somebody just wantonly murdered someone you loved, you would want them dead. It's as simple as that. Or maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you're more evolved than I am, but I would be seething. I would be like,
right, seething.
I would get that person. So it's a tough thing to discuss, and they didn't really, I guess. Wow, now you're making me like this episode a little bit less, because it wasn't a discussion; it was a proclamation.
But then Picard at the end decided, you know, screw the laws. I'm not going to let Wesley die. So
yeah. Now that's so you tell me about this. I mean, the one thing that I found a little bit off-putting is that they tried to use this as an exploration of the thornier side of the Prime Directive, right? So Picard then loftily explains the Prime Directive to the Edo, and then in the next scene breaks it. So it's like, why did we even have this discussion? And this was where the episode was kind of a cop-out to me, because instead of them saying, you know what, we have this ideal, but in this case, we're going to break it because we want our crewmen back. But they go through, again, plot dynamics that justify Picard making that choice. And if you recall, I wrote it down, so bear with me as I look at my notes. He is trying to sway them to his way of thinking, and I guess the God thing is listening at all times, because Born, yeah.
He might have been fast forwarding through this part.
It could have been, but I mean, essentially, here we go. There's a scene where they're walking down the hall, and Jean-Luc says to Beverly, whatever it costs, I will not allow them to execute your son. So right there, we know he's going to chuck the Prime Directive out the window, regardless of what this culture says, regardless of the high ideal of the Federation. And as they're trying to beam out, they can't. And it's something, I think it's Jean-Luc that says there can be no justice as laws are absolute, or when laws are absolute. Life is an exercise in exception. And when he says that, then the Edo God permits them to beam back to the ship together without the justice. And it's almost as if Jean-Luc came sweeping in, and this collective alien entity that was just, you know, enjoying its porn planet with its own set of rules that worked for that planet said, wait a minute, he's onto something. What does that do to this planet? Do they take away the death penalty? If by them beaming away, it's like a tacit acknowledgement by the God thing that it was wrong. That, wait, I never saw it this way. You're right. You're free to go. So that to me felt a bit like a cop-out, and it felt to me like this is next gen now starting to become the human-centric nightmare that has always annoyed me about it. So, I mean, Kirk would have just destroyed the computer and left. He wouldn't have made like a grand, he would
have talked it to death. Yeah.
Yeah. He would some Kirk foo and wear off the planet. And I know I'm talking a lot, but this is the part of it's my brain is still popping from all of these different ideas that are going around.
I found it odd that Picard didn't really try to convince them why of that before that last statement, before beaming out. Like, like he's a child, he's still learning. We don't know your laws. We're good people. Give us a mulligan on this one. There was no negotiation. There was no talking of it. He was just saying, this is our rule and we can't do it, but we're going to do it anyway, which I found odd. I did like the part where Picard told Beverly that I'm not going to let Wesley die. So I think the God thing is showing that they're evolved enough to, take new information and change their opinion based on the new information. Maybe they never did think about that before. But then you're right. If that gets out to the rest of the Edo, then they're going to go back and de-evolve or evolve, whichever way you want to look at it, into a mess again, where people breaking laws willy-nilly because the punishment might fit the crime.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's a tough question, isn't it?
Part of me feels that these people are just like, when they beam out, they just go, well, that was weird. And they go back to playing at love.
You would hope,
they're like, they're a bunch of harsh bimbos and himbos.
Why harsh? They're mellow,
Exactly. They're like, that was weird. Yeah. Weird. Okay. Let's go make love. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the other cop out of this episode. Not only do they break the Prime Directive, not only do they find a way for it to be justified within the narrative, but nobody ever addresses the screaming hypocrisy of the entire situation. Nobody ever says, do we need to re-examine this? They just go blithely on saying, it's too bad we couldn't have learned more. Or whatever, let's just tool along. Bye.
For me, I think we're society laws. For the most part, I follow all the laws, even ones that other people don't follow. Like there's people that drive fast all the time, 10, 15 miles over the speed limit. There's a specific lane for people to speed. If you go in the fast lane at the speed limit, people get upset with you, including police officers, because you're supposed to break the law there, right? So there's a lot of, yeah. So I'm in the slow lane going the speed limit because I don't want to break that law, I don't know, right? But there's I'm sure everyone breaks some law, speeding or,
Yeah, I honestly, it's a missed opportunity. To because it kind of reminds me, like you say, everybody breaks some law, but we still point to this ideal that we say we embody, that we believe in. And this happens a lot in like DS9, even Jadzia or Ezri says to basically it becomes a point in the Klingon Empire. It's rotten to the core, and honor is whatever we say it is, no matter how corrupt, no matter what, we do everything for honor. Like the Prime Directive is almost like the Federation version of that. We have this lofty idea of the Prime Directive, but we'll bend it or break it if we don't want our crewmen to die, because that's not just. Well, either you live by this standard or you don't. So where is your ground here? Where is your moral center if you purport to be, live or die by this non-interference rule until you don't. And then you just go back to saying, but we do.
It's a tricky situation because like I was saying, I believe in, you know, society needs laws. Yeah, so otherwise it'd be like, you know, those films that people, The Purge or whatever, all the time. But if something was if there was a law standing in between me and saving my child, laws be damned, I don't care, you know. So
I
I identify with this.
I don't know if it's so much like, maybe law is the wrong word that I'm
Yeah.
thinking of with this. Maybe it's more like tenant ideal, something that you say, that something that you live by as a moral compass, not something that you're afraid that you're going to get in trouble if you break it, but that you say that you embody as, you know, who you are as a species, who you are as a society, what kinds of things are supposed to be driving you, and isn't this noble? We don't interfere with, we're not colonizers, basically, is what they're saying. And, you know, again, the episode seems to do like contortions, because the line I read earlier, I just realized, can apply to them breaking their own prime directive too. Life is an exercise in exception. No, there can be no justice if all laws are absolute. So is that a commentary on the prime directive as well?
I think you nailed it. I think they're telling us what the prime directive is and why it can't be an absolute, because every situation is different.
Then why have a prime directive?
Because that's for the most part, you know, for the most part.
Yeah, it still sits weird with me. It's funny. I've never really thought about this as deeply, especially when I was doing the first rewatch. I'd like to see, as Next Gen becomes more smug and more staid as it goes on, how they treat these questions of the prime directive, if they come up in such a meaty way again, or if it just gets kind of pushed aside. It'll be an interesting evolution for me to try and track as we go forward with this thing we're doing here. So,
yeah, laws are weird, and it makes us think about it. I mean, I know personally, morally, I want to stick to, you know, be a law-abiding citizen. That's like, I've always kept my nose clean. But just because something is against the law or is the law doesn't make it right. And we've seen that with our recent history in the United States. You know, in the past couple 100 years, there was laws that are definitely evil that luckily slowly but surely we're getting past, and might be backsliding a little bit here and there. But you know, what was it that Dr. King said? The long arc of justice. It's a long one, but it bends towards the justness, or I got that totally wrong.
The long arc, I think it's like the long arc of history bends towards justice. I remember that Magic said it in Quantum Leap.
So I think that's part of it. But, you know, there's an exception to everything, and it can't be a hard and fast law. Like, I would never steal unless, like, my child needed medicine to save their life. Then absolutely I would. You know, so everything is negotiable, I think. I think I love the Picard and Beverly interactions, even though it was a sad thing, and Beverly was thinking she's going to maybe possibly lose Wesley. I think that brought Picard and Beverly a step closer to being closer together, because, you know, they shared a couple looks. And when Picard reassured Beverly that Wesley wasn't going to die and he would do what he could, I almost felt like they were almost became more of a team, because she was taking care of Beverly by taking care of Wesley. Or Picard was taking care of Beverly because Picard was taking care of Wesley.
Yeah, and I love the scenes where Gates is just incensed. Like, why are we even discussing this? What are you out of your minds? Like, this is my son. What? And, you know, one thing I did really like about this, those interpersonal dynamics, again, they're building the Picard-Beverly relationship very nicely there. I also loved, again, this is something I've noticed, especially in first season Next Gen. There's no enemy. There's no other to fear. There's only somebody to be understood. So Picard, even though it's a God thing that shakes the ship, this is not a threat. This is a being that we need to contact and understand, and don't think of it as an enemy. Think of it as a friend we haven't made yet. Think of it as something we need to learn to communicate with, because then we'll all be enriched by that. I mean, there was no shields. I mean, they did have the shields up, but there was no like lock phasers, fire, give it a warning across its bow. It's just like, stand down. We got to talk. You know, we're not going to get anywhere unless we talk. And I like that. It's a mystery to be explored, not an enemy to be defeated.
Not every story needs an antagonist, and I hate when there's one just because. So I like when there's stories about things and issues. What does it mean? I think a lot of the new Trek misses the point of Star Trek. What is it about? Right. And this episode was definitely about something.
Yeah, it's always an antagonist now. I mean, you have Amanda Plummer chewing the scenery. It's just nonsense. You have the control going to take over the galaxy and kill all life, and it's just like. What ideas are we exploring? You know,
did you hear about the new supposedly bad guy in Starfleet Academy coming out?
Mr. Sideways himself.
Yes,
Paul Giamatti.
Yeah. Pig vomit. Yeah.
So
that'll be interesting. What was it? The Man on the Moon. He was good. I forget the character he played in that. He was good in that. He's good in a lot of things. He was John Adams, I believe. Me and Rennie watched that. She got that on Blu-ray. She wanted that on Blu-ray. We watched the John Adams thing. She's very much into history.
He's a fantastic actor. So I'm happy. I'm happy to see that. I'm happy to see that they have some real star power going to Starfleet Academy, because if it was just going to hinge on Mary Wiseman, I don't know how long it would last, quite frankly.
I think they're going to throw everything at it.
Giving her good stuff, instead of making her Tilly. Let's re-Tilly the Tilly. I don't know. But I think cool news. That was cool news. Definitely cool news.
There were young people, but there were no babies. There were young adults, but there were no old people. Why?
Logan's Run?
Maybe Logan's Run. Maybe Time Machine.
Maybe
the Rod Taylor version.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting observation. Where are the babies? Where are the kids?
Where are the babies? I never thought of it until just now. I mean,
I guess if you live on a PG-13 planet, maybe you're just born 13.
That's possible too. They could be pod people.
Right. And maybe there are no parents because parental guidance is suggested. But if there are no parents, you don't need the guidance. I don't know. Work with me.
Maybe they're playing at love in a certain way that they don't procreate naturally and they just have to have pod people.
Could be. And, somehow they have contraception. Maybe these people. No, that doesn't make sense. I was thinking maybe they're eternal. But then they would remember the bad times, not just, sort of know abstractly about the bad times. That's an interesting topic, Albie, and it's not one I care to explore further.
No, it's you know what? I think we're trying to read too much into something they probably wrote in a week and a half, and Maurice Hurley was like, "No, it's not good. I'm going to take a pass at it." Yeah, more naked people.
We need the nudes. Let's get the nudes, but not quite the nudes.
But it brings up a lot of interesting points. So before we go to our final ratings and wrap up, I'm sure we got some more stuff to do. What's next on our agenda?
I have to bring the rundown back up, but usually this is when we do our episode crush. Who's our episode crush?
That is strange. It's got to be one of the blonde Edo people. There's one that always sticks in my memory. It's on the outside of the water reclamation plant. And she's kind of like just walking down the sidewalk and her shorts are just so short.
From the front or from the back?
From the back.
Okay, I think I recall that scene, yes.
Yes. There's something about that line between the tops of legs and the legs that just, I don't know, my brain devolves for, millennia. And that whoever that background actor was, that's my episode crush.
All right. Do I have an episode crush here? Let's see.
Boner Nipple Man.
Yeah, right. Maybe my episode crush in this is Tiana. And it's interesting because she can read these people, but she seems of someone, again, who's from a society that's so much more open, so much more prosexual. I mean, they're not exactly Deltons, but still, I feel like the Betazoids have that more together. And in this, she's got nothing but a lot of like sort of sly smiles. And maybe is she jealous? It looks like she could be a little bit jealous, but then she's distracted because she's also turned on. And I think Marina played it just right. And we haven't discussed that aspect of the episode, but I really feel like she brought a lot of nuance to everything she did in this episode. So Marina's my crush on this episode.
All right, I like it. There was much side eye going on between Riker and Troy.
Exactly. Let's look askance. And play
like
for all it's worth.
They're not together, but they still consider each other Imzadi. So there is jealousy there, even though they are enlightened.
So I thought that was a cool aspect. Yeah. And we've been talking so much about the Picard Beverly thing. I mean, this is very subtle Troy Riker stuff going on here. So,
well, and Frakes and Marina have said in later interviews recently that the producers didn't want to go down that road with them, but every chance they got, they would add looks to each other.
I find that weird because they were just a lift from Decker and Aaliyah. So it's just, and that was the whole reason for Decker and Aaliyah, right?
It was definitely there in the pilot, but it's something that they didn't decide to pursue, but the two actors did. So I'm glad it eventually worked out in Insurrection, was it?
Yeah. When he shaved again. Right?
Yeah.
So what's your favorite part of the episode?
My favorite, That's a good question. I like the episode overall. The lack of fabric is good. I love seeing the water reclamation plant, and I love that. I remember our friend Matt used to go visit there when he'd go to the Doctor Who things. He'd always send us pictures from there, in our group chat. But it's got to be the boobs and butts. I got to be honest.
Yeah. All right. I was going to say my favorite part's all the jogging and all the boners.
The jogging. Yeah. The jogging. My least favorite part is that they did have so much support while they were jogging. So. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't network TV, but it was still TV in the 80s. So,
and it wasn't quite Baywatch yet, but they might have been able to be innovative there, but they weren't. So, but I still did appreciate it. Yeah. But overall, it's a great episode, but boobs, butts. Yeah. I'm a simple man.
Is there any 47 in this?
This one, no, but I forgot to mention the one in the finale of Disco.
Disco had a 47, huh?
The shuttlecraft that Burnham's son was flying was shuttlecraft 47.
Okay, so and anybody that hasn't seen that yet, you can find it right here on our YouTube channel. And you can also get a podcast feed of it on our Patreon site, patreon.com/Treksploration. So
that was our longest episode yet. Worth the watch, I think.
Yeah, well, it was a double episode, double disco.
Yeah.
So I think it's time for you to ask me a trivia question.
Trivia questions? All right. Let me find my
glasses.
Yep. Allergic retinox. Got my glasses. All right, picking one at random, and it's going to be about Riker and Troy on this planet, probably.
Right, I'm sure. There's always a weird synergy.
Yep, okay. Did we read that one? Yep. No, you read this one to me. Haha, that's weird.
You gotta be kidding me.
Ensign Sonia Gomez and Holodeck Captain Picard.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't read that one. So let me try this one. Okay. I guess that'll happen, right? Because we both got the same set.
And it looks like I opened, because they have two that you one, and I opened the same one you did, apparently, unless they're completely randomized. Then it's just anyway.
Dude, you read me that one too. This is weird. Maybe I got to grab from somewhere else. Speaking of grabbing from somewhere else, this episode was really good.
You said what we were all thinking.
I said that part out loud. I'm just going to read this. As revealed in Deep Space Nine episode Inquisition, what is section 3? You read that one to me.
Yeah, I did.
Oh my goodness.
This is so weird.
Okay, I'm just randomly picking them out. In the Deep Space Nine episode Little Green Men, we haven't had this one yet.
We haven't had this one. Okay.
Who are the aliens who inspire the Roswell incident?
I would say that's the Magnificent Ferengi.
Yes, I will double check, but yes. A time traveling quark ramen nog, but yes.
Yep.
The Star Trek Enterprise episode Fusion is the first of the series to feature what Vulcan specialty?
Infusion? What Vulcan specialty? Well, how about a mind melt?
Very good. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Because that was the AIDS one, kind of.
I kept on thinking of a neck pinch, but I knew that happened really early on in Ent.
Yeah. Mayweather in the cave. He's like, I must have pinched my neck. That was a good episode. I just watched that one. What Tony Award-winning actor, singer, played Dr. LaForge, Lieutenant Commander LaForge's father, in the Next Generation episode Interface? Oh, I know this one. Yep. I'll give you a minute. You just picture him.
Reveal. I can't even picture him. You know what? I'm going to say it is none other than the great Ben Vereen.
You are correct, sir.
Okay.
Ben
it was either
Vereen.
that or Wolverine. I'm not sure.
Wolverine or Ben Vereen. I get them confused very often. Very good.
All right.
3 for 3. 3 for 3. Very good job, Mr. Christopher.
All right. So it is time for a Trek and Tell. What do I have?
Trek and Tell. You got something?
I really don't. I mean, I can bring another book down. You know me. I don't really have much.
Yeah. Recommend something. Did you get to read the first chapter of Imzadi yet?
No, it's still here in its wrapper. I haven't even unwrapped.
Oh, unbox it.
So yeah. So we did. We unboxed it last time.
Okay.
During the double.
We'll unwrap it next time.
Yeah, we'll unwrap it next time. I can pick a book that I would recommend. Let's see. Oh, I always like this one. And then they did a sequel to this. So this is the late great A.C. Crispin's. I believe this was her first Star Trek novel. It was called Yesterday's Sun. And what this novel was about, it posited that Spock fathered a child on the Atos world with Mariette Hartman.
Wow.
So they travel in time using the Guardian Forever and he reconnects with his son. And then there's a sequel to this called Time for Yesterday. And I recall these being two of my favorite Star Trek novels when I was a kid. So I haven't read it in years. It's very short though. It's
it doesn't look long. It doesn't look intimidating. I think I could do it.
Yeah, it's literally, you could do this in an afternoon. It's like 191 pages. It's nothing.
Wow.
You know?
When he goes back in time, does he eat meat and enjoy it again?
Maybe. Here's one thing that they do say in this, and it's the one thing that took me out of it, because Vulcans are vegetarians. That's the word I was looking for. Like you, sometimes, like you.
I'm an omnivore most of the time.
But I think he goes to the Vulcan Science Academy he goes to some authority on Vulcan, and he's very recalcitrant, and he says, "I ate meat." And I always thought that a Vulcan would say, "I ate flesh."
Yeah, you're right. You know, but it might be universal translator kind of thing too.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. But then is flesh just skin and meat muscle? I don't know.
I would always say flesh is muscle as well. That's how I always took it. But you would know.
I guess. But not really.
That sounds cool. So that's another time traveler with the Guardian of Forever. That seems to be a go-to in the books.
Do you want me to read it? Yesterday, son, the Romulans attack the planet Gateway, where Federation scientists are studying the Guardian of Forever, the mysterious portal to the past. The Enterprise must protect the Guardian or destroy it, but Spock has already used the portal to journey to the past. On the planet Sarpedion, 5,000 years ago, Spock knew a beautiful, primitive woman. Now he has gone to meet his son. Don't miss the exciting sequel to Yesterday's Son, Time for Yesterday, coming soon from Pocket Books. I wonder if this is a first edition. I guess not, because this is like a 6th edition. So I don't have a first edition of Yesterday's Son, but
all right,
still a good read.
I'm sure I have it on my Kobo. I got all the Star Trek books on my Kobo, so I'll check it out. What's it called again? Yesterday's Son?
Yep.
And it's spelled like son, like Spock's son. I never knew he had a son.
He does in the extended universe, according to A.C. Crispin.
Beta canon. All
and
right, so
he's like 5,000 years in the past, so not really.
That's true. So he's already been dead.
Yeah, he's been dead and buried. That's even a
Man.
line at the end of the book, if I recall. That's how much I like this book. In the last chapter, it's like Spock is thinking, I can't decide whether or not he's been dead and gone for 5,000 years or if he's just on the other side of time and I could see him anytime I want. Anyway, when you're in Star Trek, you have that option.
Well, yeah, that's how I think about, I've said that many times, how I feel about my dad. He's not gone. He's just alive in the past.
Yep.
Yep.
So cool.
Yeah.
All right. What do you got?
Okay. You know how you are always surprised how they have these random Star Trek things still in
always.
Retail, right?
Yeah. You shop more than I do. I have never seen Star Trek crap in the wild. I just don't see it.
I think they know I'm coming and they just go, this guy will buy anything if it says Star Trek. They take a bag of celery and write Star Trek celery. And I'm like, ooh, really? But I'm at my local grocery store, right? Just grabbing a couple things. And I look at this and I'm like, what? Because you remember, like a few weeks ago, I got that Star Trek magazine, the one they put out every year, but it's different.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This is hyper specific and something you would think no one in the world would buy but me, but we must be wrong because they don't publish a magazine for one person, right? Star Trek 3, the Search for Spock magazine.
That's kind of crazy. It looks like the Next Gen cast on the front, though.
Yeah, they have some news, to get you to buy it too. But it's mostly about Star Trek 3, the Search for Spock. And I'm like, what? I mean, it's a good movie, but
are there like several of them in a rack?
Yeah, well, they have. Yeah, they're next to the Time and Newsweek and whatever magazines real people read.
The only time I see magazines like that is when I'm waiting online in CVS for the pharmacy. They always have a display with all of those weird specialized magazines, like Lady Diana, a history.
Yeah, Lady Diana.
Yeah, or the magic of Billy Joel or whatever.
Yeah, I was going to buy the Gilmore Girls one. There's a Gilmore Girls magazine. I was like, ooh, that looks good. But then this was right next to it, and I was like, Star Trek 3 magazine?
Well, that's one of my favorites, Star Trek 3. So
the magazine, and it just came out. It's ridiculous. So I had to show that. There's interviews with Robin Curtis and all kinds of stuff. And it's... okay, I'll buy it.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't even look at the price. It's like almost $15 for a magazine now.
Yeah, it's nuts. Yeah.
No, but I had to buy it. And I'm like, why not 2? Why 3? You would think they would sell more 2s, right? I don't know. Or 4s.
Well, maybe they've already taken out 2. Maybe just keep looking. Now that you know it exists, see if in a couple of months one for 4 comes out. And then you'll have to go to eBay and find one for TMP and find one for Con. Yep. So
Star Trek must be bigger than we think it is. If they're putting these in the racks at the grocery stores.
We are the first Star Trek show on YouTube. Yeah,
there's not other ones, right?
It can't be that big. It can't be that big. It's got to be just us. Just us.
Just us. So does that, how about wrap up thoughts? Do we have anything that we didn't talk about that we wanted to talk about before we go to our final thoughts and ratings?
No, I think we really nailed a lot of the stuff that this episode was bringing. Whatever they were putting down, we were picking up, and
I think we got a lot out of it. Yeah, it was interesting, the whole data scene where he was babbling and Beverly told him to shut up.
Oh, one thing that we didn't talk about. I did like when Beverly said that. I like that, the data babble. I have that as one of my notes, and he's like, maybe I do babble. Did you catch this? When they first see the God thing or whatever it is off the bow of the ship, they're looking at it through the viewport, and Picard says, "We need to get a real look at this." Geordi and then Geordi literally goes down a couple decks and looks out a fucking window. Are his sensors on his visor better than the sensors on the Enterprise? Like, how does that work?
I'm gonna say yes. And because they're just basically looking at a screen, it's a holographic screen because when they show like shots from the side, you see the side of the people they're talking to, but it's still just like, your basic 3 colors, your red, blue, green, whatever it is, red, blue, yellow, RGB. Yeah. But why couldn't Worf or somebody just go boop, boop, boop and put it in infrared and put it in X-ray and put it in this and put it in that?
Exactly.
Screen. Yeah.
How can that visor, which is the size of the banana clip, have a better sensor array than the entire sensor network on a Galaxy class starship? it's just so weird to me. What is Geordi going to see that possibly that the ship can't?
That's true. And if the ship doesn't have the sensors that Geordi does on his visor, then Starfleet's not doing their job.
Yeah,
100%.
right. They should just put a visor right above the deflector array so that
just banana combs all across the bow.
Right, or that could be the front. Yeah, the front of the saucer section is just one big banana
comb. Yeah. Daniels has that visor, possibly.
So,
what I thought you were going to talk about is I thought it was weird that like Data just took it upon himself to contact the entity off the front bow, orbiting the planet. Like Picard didn't say try to make contact with him. Data just starts saying, starts communications on his own without being directed to.
I didn't realize that. I didn't catch that. I was too caught up in the Day of the Dove kind of feel of this when the energy ball comes just going through the front of the ship and through the saucer section and then starts floating down the hall and stuff. I could think of nothing but Day of the Dove, and the fact that it used Data to communicate was pretty neat. Again, cool. Not something to be feared and defeated, but something to be, welcomed and understood.
Yeah, I like that the crew and especially Picard didn't take it as an attack. They were trying to communicate. I like that. And they reused that like light thing going through the ship again in The Child, season 2 opener with Ian Andrew.
Yep.
Yeah, stuff. And they revisit that as the joke in Lower Decks, which I really loved. And she used him to get a new tricorder. So cool stuff. I got a couple more things. The guy on the bridge, he was, is that the same actor that was in the first few, or at least the first season of Voyager? The one that B'Elanna broke his nose?
Oh, you got the wrong guy. I don't know. I don't know Voyager.
Look that up.
Boy, what's Voyager? Is that a show?
It's got to be the same guy. I think it is.
But I mean, how many years you're talking about? This got to be a good 10 years between this and Voyager, probably more. But you're talking about somebody on the bridge.
Yes.
Was this a helmsman? Is this the guy that's standing behind the horseshoe and gets really mouthy towards the end? That dude,
with a little bit of a curly hair,
kind of a carrot top dude.
Yeah, exactly.
Sorta.
That guy.
Yeah. That dude.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't mind me. Okay, if you or someone knows if this is the same guy, please comment down below.
Right. I mean, but this is the best kind of podcasting / YouTubing, just looking up stuff.
Watching people look up stuff. But I believe it's the same guy. If it's not, they're definitely related. So I found that interesting that he shows up here and maybe a couple episodes of TNG and then in the first season of Voyager, which is so much later. I think he was the engineer, and when B'Elanna and him were trying. Oh, you haven't seen these episodes yet.
Again, yeah, okay. You could say anything. I think he was the guy that came through the wormhole on the Voyager's bridge that announced the coming of the Borg and the Delta Quadrant. It was that dude.
Spoilers. Right? Spoilers. What else do I have written down before that?
But what of Lazarus? God will punish. Oh. We forgot the best Wesley moment of this entire episode.
Where he hugged the girl?
That too. No. At the very end, when he realizes they're basically going to jailbreak him, he's just like, wait a minute. You're talking about the lives of like 1,000 people up on that ship for me? He was, I don't, he kind of pulled his punch, but he might have said, he looked like he was going to say, I'm not going to go. I'm not going to jeopardize the entire ship because of me. Let them kill me. That I thought was amazing. I can't believe that we forgot to discuss that.
Yeah, he was definitely contemplating sacrificing himself for the whole ship. Yeah.
Yeah. What a boss move.
And then standing up to Picard when Picard said, this doesn't concern you. And he said, I'm sorry, sir, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very ballsy.
I loved it.
Maybe he had some testosterone flowing through himself. With all
exactly. He was really frustrated.
He was manning up. He's getting his puff on, So. But yeah, that was a big deal for Wesley to go from two servings of ice cream to standing up to Picard.
And it's funny because he says earlier, I'm with Starfleet. We don't lie, so he's embodying that ideal, and he is willing to follow the letter of the Prime Directive. Wesley might be the only honorable person on the freaking ship. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe that's why he became a traveler eventually.
Could be. Could
Spoilers.
be.
Could be.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That was
great episode. Much better than I remembered. Much more important.
So much here. So,
so after all that, let's give credit again to who wrote this episode.
The writer was. I got to go back to the top of the rundown. It was teleplay by Worley Throne, story by Ralph Wills and Worley Throne. So, thank you,
job.
Worley and Ralph. Together again.
Good. Together again. Together forever. So, Christopher D. Philippus, final thoughts and ratings out of 5 for Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 1, Episode 8, Justice.
As solid as a first season episode gets, in my opinion, one of the better episodes of Next Gen overall, and I will give it 10 jogging boners out of 5.
Wow, that's pretty good. Do I go past the 5 line? I don't know. 5 out of 5 would be a perfect score. I'll go with a 7. I think this is a really good episode. 7 somethings or whatevers. Why is everything always a something or a whatever? So I'll go with good 7 line. Of those.
Reminiscent of Bones, right?
Yeah, right.
Line. Yeah. I love it. All right. So
it's a great episode. I'm gonna watch it again probably tonight after we talked about it and try to figure more stuff out about it. And I think that's a good episode. And any good story is one that you walk away from questioning how you feel about it and how it made your views change and how you might want to think differently in the future because of the new information you got, just like the godlike thing orbiting the planet. So yeah, great episode. 7 somethings or whatevers.
Nice. Very nice. Well, we should probably tell people who are watching or listening how they can comment and tell us what they thought of the episode. You can always do it right here on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Treksploration. The comment section below, just type up what you think of what we are talking about. If we're full of crap, you can also join us on our main hub of discussion, which is our Patreon community. That's patreon.com/Treksploration. We're on Instagram @TreksplorationPod, on X @Treksploration. You can always call us at 707-847-6682. Yep. You can email us at treksplorationpod@gmail.com, or you can send us your Ito outfit. Show me an Ito outfit and I'll wear it on camera. Send that to P.O. Box 542, Bayport, New York 11705. You can see my nipples in all their glory.
Yeah, we definitely got to cosplay that if we go, right?
You and me are the 2 cops. Let me jog for about a good 6 months before we cosplay this, all right?
Dude,
just so I can fit it.
You play your physical health down. You're like a specimen. You're like the statue of David over there.
I don't think so. The statue. Oh, the statue. What statue?
What statue? I had no idea.
Inside joke.
What episode are we talking about next, Chris? We got a couple more episodes coming up, don't we?
Yeah. I only wrote one down. It's The Battle, if we're talking TNG recaps. And that is season 1, episode 9. I don't remember what that one's about.
The Battle of Maxia. It's Picard gets a headache, and it's all of Ferengi's fault.
That shitty episode. Well, maybe we'll like it better.
Yeah, maybe it's profound, and there's things we'll find in it we never found before.
It could be. And we're going back to doing more diverse bonus content now that Disco is over. We have decided that the next bonus show for the Patreon fans is going to be The Cage. We're going to be talking about the original Star Trek pilot, The Cage.
I'm excited. I'm crushing hard on Susan Oliver.
Always crushing hard on Susan Oliver. And I think it's going to be especially cool because there's a lot of chatter about Strange New Worlds coming back. So it'll be nice to get reacquainted with the idea of Pike and that crew.
It'll be really cool. What version are we going to watch? Should I watch the Laserdisc? Should I watch the remastered? Should I watch the DVD? What should I do?
I don't know. I'm going to watch the one that's streaming on whatever streaming service has Star Trek these days. So I'm going to guess
the
Paramount
remastered.
Plus.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
I'll watch a few different versions. See if they're any different. So I'm looking forward to the cage. I'm looking forward to the battle.
The battle coming up next.
We learn all about the Stargazer in
Treksploration.
Yep. On Treksploration.
Onward and upward.
The second best Star Trek podcast ever.
Excelsior.
Okay. So for Treksploration, I'm Albie.
And I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.